Hello and welcome back to the Everyday English Podcast. I am your host, Sarah, and I am so happy you are joining us today. This is the place where we take real conversations, slow them down, and explain everything so you can actually use English in your daily life. Whether you are listening on your commute, while you are cooking dinner, or just relaxing with a cup of coffee, we are here to help you build real fluency. Today, we have a very special and honestly a very necessary topic. We are talking about conflict.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark. And Sarah, when you say conflict, my hands start to sweat a little bit. I think for most of us, arguing or disagreeing is hard enough in our native language, but doing it in a second language, that is terrifying. You worry about being rude, you worry about using the wrong word, and sometimes you just stay silent because it is safer.
Exactly, Mark. That is the pain point we are solving today. I have seen so many advanced learners who are great at grammar and vocabulary, but they freeze in business meetings. They have a great idea or they see a mistake in a plan, but they don't know how to say no without sounding aggressive. So they say nothing, and that hurts their career.
I have definitely been there. I remember once early in my career, I told a manager, I disagree, very bluntly. The whole room went quiet. It wasn't that I was wrong about the facts, but my tone and my word choice were just too direct. I sounded angry, even though I was just trying to be helpful.
That is a classic mistake. In many cultures, directness is valued, but in English-speaking business environments, especially in the UK, the US, or Canada, we often use what we call diplomatic language. We wrap our negative feedback in polite words. If you just say, I disagree, or that is a bad idea, people feel attacked. Today, we are going to teach you the sandwich method of diplomatic disagreement. By the end of this episode, you will have a specific set of phrases to handle any conflict professionally.
I love the sound of that, the sandwich method. Does that mean we get to eat lunch after this?
Not quite, Mark, but it does involve layers. Think of the sandwich. You have the top slice of bread, the meat or the filling in the middle, and the bottom slice of bread. When we disagree politely in English, we do the same thing. The top slice of bread is the softener. This is where you validate the other person. The meat in the middle is the pivot and the proposal. This is where you actually disagree and suggest a new idea. And the bottom slice is a polite closing or a check-in.
This makes a lot of sense. You cushion the blow. You don't just throw the meat at them, you hold it with the bread.
That is a funny image, but yes, exactly. So before we get into the heavy stuff, let's talk about that top slice of bread, the softener. Mark, if I say to you, we should spend our entire budget on Instagram ads, and you think that is a terrible idea, how do you start?
If I am not thinking, I might say, no, that won't work. But if I am using a softener, I should probably acknowledge your idea first. Maybe something like, I see what you mean.
Perfect. I see what you mean. That is one of the best softeners. It tells me that you are listening. You are not just waiting to talk. You actually heard me. It validates my position without agreeing with it. You aren't saying, yes, let's do it. You are saying, I understand your logic. Another one I hear a lot is, that's a valid point. Yes, that is a valid point. This is very professional. Valid means it has logic, it makes sense. Again, you aren't agreeing to do it, but you are respecting the idea. Let's try a third one. This one is great if the other person feels very strongly about their opinion. You can say, I understand where you are coming from. I understand where you're coming from. I like that. It sounds very empathetic. It implies that you understand their background or their reason for thinking that way. So we have 3 great options for our top slice of bread. I see what you mean. That's a valid point. And I understand where you're coming from. Right. And I want our listeners to practice this right now. I am going to say something controversial, and I want you to reply out loud or in your head using one of these softeners. Ready? Here is my statement. I think we should cancel all holidays this year to work harder. Wow, Sarah, that is a harsh policy. Okay, listeners, take a second. How would you start your reply? You could say, I see what you mean, or I understand where you are coming from. Even if you think the idea is crazy, you start there. It lowers the temperature in the room. It makes me feel safe, which means I will be more open to hearing your disagreement. Okay, so we have laid down the top slice of bread. The other person feels heard. Now comes the hard part, the meat, the actual disagreement. This is where most people get tripped up. They use the word but.
The word but.
It is a dangerous little word. We use it all the time, but in a delicate conversation, but acts like an eraser. Imagine I say, Mark, you are a great guy, but
I immediately forget the part about being a great guy, and I am just waiting for the bad news.
exactly. But cancels out everything that came before it. If you say, I see your point, but I disagree, the I see your point part feels fake. It feels like you were just waiting to attack. So in the sandwich method, we want to swap but for something softer. We call this the pivot.
The pivot. Okay, so instead of but, what should we use?
The champion of pivots is the word however. It means the same thing as but it sounds more formal, more thoughtful, and less abrupt. It is a bridge, not a wall. I see your point. However, we need to look at the budget.
That definitely sounds smoother. It flows better. What about actually?
Actually works, but you have to be careful with your tone. If you say actually loudly, it sounds condescending, but if you say it softly, it can be a good pivot. That is a valid point. Actually, I have some data that suggests something different.
I see. So however is the safest bet. What about the phrase on the other hand?
On the other hand is fantastic because it suggests that there are two sides to the story. You aren't saying you are wrong and I am right. You are saying here is side A and here is side B. It frames the disagreement as a comparison, not a fight. So let's combine the softener and the pivot. Mark, give me the first two layers of the sandwich.
Okay, let's go back to your crazy idea about canceling holidays. I could say, I understand where you were coming from, Sarah. However, we need to consider the team's mental health.
Beautiful. Did you hear that, listeners? He didn't say, no, that is stupid. He didn't say, but you are wrong. He validated me, pivoted smoothly, and then introduced his reason. It makes me want to listen to him.
It feels much better to say it that way too. I feel more in control. I am not reacting emotionally. I am responding professionally.
That is the key difference, reaction versus response. Now, before we get to the final part of our sandwich, I want to remind everyone that if you are finding these tips helpful, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. We do this every week, taking these scary, complex parts of English and making them simple and usable. If you want to feel confident in your next meeting, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next lesson on presentation skills.
Yes, please do. We have some great topics coming up. Okay, Sarah, we have the softener. I see your point. We have the pivot. However, now we need the proposal. This is the meat. This is where we offer the alternative.
Right. You can't just disagree and stop. In business, you need to drive the conversation forward. You need to offer a solution. And just like with the other steps, the grammar you use here matters. We want to avoid direct commands. Don't say, we must do this, or we have to change. That can sound bossy.
So we should use our modal verbs here. Words like could or might.
Exactly. These are your best friends. Instead of, we must change the plan, say, we might want to consider changing the plan. Or, it could be better to look at other options.
We might want to consider.
That's a long phrase for just saying, let's think about it. It is long, but that length adds softness. It's polite. It invites the other person to think with you. Another great phrase for the proposal stage is asking it as a question. Have we considered?
Have we considered? I use that one a lot. Have we considered the cost? Have we considered the deadline? It doesn't sound like I'm telling you what to do. It sounds like I'm just checking a box on a list.
Precisely. It depersonalizes the criticism. You aren't criticizing me. You are criticizing the plan or the situation. So let's put the whole sandwich together. Softener, pivot, proposal. Mark, imagine I just said we need to launch this product tomorrow, but you know the product isn't ready.
Okay, that is a stressful situation. I cannot let us launch a broken product. So step 1, softener. I see why you want to launch quickly. Step 2, pivot. However, step 3, proposal. It might be safer to wait 1 more week for testing.
Perfect. Listen to how professional that sounds. I see why you want to launch quickly. However, it might be safer to wait 1 more week for testing. Compare that to, no, we can't launch, it's not ready. The second version causes panic. The first version causes a discussion. This is really powerful stuff.
It's like a formula. If you memorize the formula, you don't have to panic in the meeting. You just fill in the blanks.
That is exactly how I want our listeners to treat this. It's a script. You don't need to invent new grammar every time. Just memorize. Softener, pivot, proposal.
Sarah, I think it is time to put this into action. We always promise our listeners real-life practice. Shall we do a role play?
Let's do it. We are going to simulate a meeting. Listeners, I want you to close your eyes if you can and imagine we are sitting in a conference room. I am the marketing manager, and Mark, you are the sales manager.
Okay, I am the sales manager. I am focused on numbers, targets, and getting customers right now.
And I am focused on the brand image and long-term strategy. The context is this. We have a limited budget for our next campaign. I want to spend it all on a high-quality video production. You think that is too risky, and you want to spend it on email marketing and direct sales.
Got it. So I need to disagree with your expensive video idea using the sandwich method.
Right. Let's begin. So, Mark, I've been looking at the Q4 strategy, and I am convinced that a high-end cinematic video is the way to go. If we put the whole budget into one amazing commercial, we can really go viral. It will make the brand look premium. I think we should sign the contract with the video production company today.
I see your point, Sarah, and I agree that a premium brand image is important for the long term. That is a valid perspective. However, looking at our sales targets for this quarter, I am worried that a video takes too long to produce. We might want to consider splitting the budget into email marketing and social ads instead. That way we can drive sales immediately rather than waiting for the video to be finished.
I understand where you are coming from, Mark. You are worried about the immediate numbers. That said, if we only focus on quick sales, we look like every other cheap company. I really feel the video distinguishes us.
That is a fair point. On the other hand, if we don't hit our targets this month, we might not have a budget next year. Could we perhaps do a smaller video production and keep 50% of the funds for the direct sales campaign?
That is an interesting compromise. I hadn't thought about splitting it that way.
And cut.
Nice work, Mark. That felt very real, and you managed to disagree with me twice without me getting angry.
I tried. The first time I used I see your point and however. I suggested splitting the budget. The second time when you pushed back, I used that as a fair point and on the other hand.
And notice what happened. Because you were polite, I didn't fight you. I started listening to your compromise. That is the magic of this method. It turns a conflict into a collaboration.
One thing I noticed during that role play, Sarah, is the tone of voice. We should talk about that for a second, because if I say the right words but with the wrong face or tone, it fails, right?
Absolutely. This is huge. If you say, I see your point, while rolling your eyes, or with a sarcastic voice, like, yeah, I see your point, it is actually worse than saying no.
It sounds passive-aggressive.
Yes, your voice needs to match the words. Your voice should be calm, low, and slow. When we get nervous, we tend to speak fast and high, but we can't do that. You need to take a breath, drop your shoulders. I see your point. Use a falling intonation at the end of the sentence to sound grounded.
That is great advice. Physicality matters too. If you're frowning or crossing your arms tightly, your body is saying I disagree before your mouth opens.
Correct. Open body language. Nodding? Yes, you can nod even when you disagree. Nodding just means I am processing what you are saying, not I agree. So nod while they speak, use the softener, and then pivot.
Sarah, I want to ask about a specific situation. What if you just don't have an alternative? The sandwich method ends with a proposal, but sometimes you just know the other person's idea is bad, but you don't know what the right answer is yet.
That is a very common situation. You can still use the method, but your proposal becomes a request for time. So it looks like this. Softener, that is a valid point. Pivot, I'm not sure if we have all the data yet. Proposal, could we take 24 hours to research this before we decide?
Buying time, that is a lifesaver. Could we take a day to think about it is much better than saying, I don't know, but not that.
Exactly. Delaying is a valid proposal. It shows you are being careful, not just obstinate.
I think we should also mention that this isn't just for business. This works with your spouse, your friends, maybe even your kids.
Oh, 100%. If my husband says, let's buy this expensive new sofa, and I say, no, it's too expensive, we might have an argument. But if I say, I see why you want it, it looks really comfortable. However, we are trying to save for that holiday. Maybe we could look for a similar style that is on sale? It completely changes the dynamic at home.
So you're telling me this podcast might save my marriage, not just my job?
I am not making any promises, Mark, but good communication helps everything.
Okay, let's recap what we have learned today, because we have covered a lot of ground. We started with the fear of being rude. We introduced the sandwich method.
Step 1. The softener. I see your point. That is a valid point. I understand where you are coming from. Step 2. The pivot. Swap but for however, that said, or on the other hand. Step 3. The proposal. Use we might want to consider. It could be better too. Or have we considered?
And we practiced it in a role play about a marketing budget. I hope you guys were shadowing along with us. If you didn't, you can always rewind this episode and repeat the phrases after us. Shadowing is the best way to get your mouth muscles used to these new shapes.
Yes, please do that. And now I have a challenge for our listeners. We always like to give you something to do immediately after the episode to lock in the learning.
What is the challenge for this week, Sarah?
For the next 7 days, I want you to ban the word but from your serious conversations. Obviously, you can use it if you say, I like coffee but not tea. That's fine. But in a meeting or a serious discussion, every time you want to say but, I want you to pause and force yourself to use however or actually.
That is a tough challenge, but is such a habit.
It is, and that is why it is a challenge. Write the word however on a sticky note and put it on your computer monitor. Just seeing it will remind you to pivot gracefully.
I am going to try that myself. I think I rely on but way too much.
Let us know how it goes. If you try this in a meeting, did people react differently? Did you feel more confident? We love hearing your stories. You can leave a comment if you are listening on a platform that allows it, or just reflect on it in your own journal.
And speaking of confidence, if you want to keep building your business English skills, we have a whole library of episodes waiting for you. We have talked about small talk, email writing, and job interviews. This episode is a great companion to our previous one on business vocabulary, so if you haven't listened to that yet, go check it out.
Absolutely. Building fluency is a journey, but you don't have to do it alone. We are here with you every step of the way. Every conversation you practice, every phrase you learn, is bringing you one step closer to that feeling of total freedom in English. Imagine walking into a meeting and not feeling that knot in your stomach. Imagine knowing exactly what to say when you disagree. That is possible for you.
It definitely is. Just keep practicing, keep listening, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That is how we learn.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everyday English podcast today. We appreciate you spending your time with us. Good luck with the sandwich method. Go out there and have some diplomatic disagreements.
See you next time, everyone.
Bye.